Welcome back, YouTube. Guess what today is? Today is gloomy and just not nice. But what today is Mustang Turbo Day. So I got the truck loaded, the front and back seats all loaded up underneath, and so we're gonna go to the hobby shop on base and use their lift to make our lives easier. And over the next 2 days, we're gonna install all this stuff, and you'll see it all in this video. Alright, now we're in the shop. We got the car in the bay. First thing we're gonna do is take the battery off. Now we're working on draining the radiator. Pull off this little plastic shield here. So the radiator is back in here. So you need to remove that shield right here as well. Loosen this plastic nut to drain the antifreeze. Once you've drained it, retighten it. Now we're going to remove the air inlet hose, the air box, and unclip the sound composer here. Take out the MAF sensor and the entire actual box. Now we're going to remove the coolant overflow tank. You're going to have one hose with a hose clamp here, and then underneath there's going to be one, and then two 8mm bolts. Now we're going to remove the upper radiator hose. Alright, time to drain the oil. After you drain the oil, pull off the oil filter just to make it easier to get in here. We need to unplug and remove the oil pressure sending unit right there on the back side of the filter housing. Alright, we have this brass T-fitting. We're going to use this now. Use some right stuff on the threads. You can use Teflon tape if you want, but I'm going to use this. Now clean the threads on your sensor. Put some right stuff on it. Okay. Then we're going to screw it into that brass T-fitting on here. Alright, now here's a little 90-degree angle. This side goes to the turbo feed. And this side goes into that brass fitting that we just put the sensor in. So the sensor, and then on the back side is another opening for this guy. Now we need to loosen the sway bar, remove the sway bar from the radiator support, and you're going to need a deep socket 15. Alright, now to install the sway bar, set up the extension. They don't tell you one thing in the instructions. You have to remove this bottom stud in order for this to even work. So you remove that bottom stud. You have the nut that's welded to this. Then you screw this flat-headed Allen keyed washer, which is a, what is it? A 5.5. Okay, put the 5.5 in there, and you're going to tighten that down. The top one's going to be your factory hardware. Then in the hardware kit that they give you, there's a section with two of these bolts in it, and then you use the factory hardware on the other side. Alright, so when it's done, it should look like this. That one's nice and torqued down. That one's nice and torqued down. Then this bottom one's going to be the bottom sway bar bolt, and the top one's going to be for the top. Loosen the bolts for the H-pipe clamps in the back. Take these off and push them over. Take off these 8mm nuts so we can take off this cover. Use an 8mm deep socket to get this one off, that one off, that one off, and that one off. That'll loosen the fuel rails. Now wiggle it carefully. You're gonna get a little bit of fuel probably that comes out, but just wiggle it till it pops out on both sides. The top of the injectors are held in with this metal clip, so we need to remove this metal clip and the injector will come out. Here's a comparison between the two injectors. These are the black ones are the new 47-pound injectors, and these pink purple Homo ones are the stock ones. Now that you have all the injectors out, lube the O-rings on your injectors so you don't accidentally rip them, tear them, or damage the O-rings in any way. Then we're going to slide the blue side, right? This is the feed side. You're going to slide that into the fuel rail and then slide the locking mechanism over that. Once you get all the injectors in, plug all your cables and your regulator back in and the vacuum line that goes to the regulator. Put the cover back on, and that part's done. Before you bolt the fuel rail back in, you're going to need to loosen the intake manifold to lift it, to do our thermostat swap, and to get this metal bracket out. We're going to remove this plate here underneath the throttle body next. This one. So with it unbolted, you can get to those 10mm bolts down there. We got two 10mm bolts and two 8mm bolts. Then we take this off. We need to put this hanger in the passenger side slots right here. So we're going to unbolt this. There's one here, one here, one here, one here, and then these two that hold it to the transmission. So I'm holding the tranny up right there. Then I'm going to pull this out, put these tabs through this hole, and then bend over the tabs. Bend over the tabs like that, and then it's in. Remove your O2 sensors. I suggest spraying them with some lube, and then pull them out. Now remove these two nuts here, and then it should be identical over here on that end. Also, take out the top two O2 sensors, which might be easier to take out once you get these pipes loose. Here's that bulkhead connector we used for the oil drain, if anyone wants to pick one up. So the instructions tell you to use this punch thing and a tap, and then tap in the actual thread. I said no, no, no. So we went and got a bulkhead connector. So there's this piece, then a washer, then the pan, then another washer, then a nut. And then I also put right stuff in the grooves. So that's gonna work nicer. And then we have an oil temperature sensor. So I painted it so you can't see too much, but it's gonna go in here. So yeah, but this oil pan was a pain in the ass to take out. So if you don't have an oil temperature sensor, you might just want to do their way and punch it and then tap it. But this is gonna last longer and it's a little more professional. Install your gasket. Then it's gonna be these black bolts. Put some Loctite on it. I just use a bit of RTV just on the very tips, on the ends here and here, just to hold it on while I was installing it, and torque it down. Alright, so the clock picture on the laptop doesn't look that good, but this is pretty much what it looks like to me. We'll compare it right now there to that. That's all they give us for clocking. That picture, it's pretty bad. If you have the 67mm upgrade, you're going to have this reducer that goes down to 2.5 inch from like 2 3/4 or 3 inch, I'm not sure. And then you'll have a single clamp that's bigger than all the rest of these. So you're going to need that. All right. Get your gasket put in between. You want the exhaust facing this way. If you have it on the compressor side, then your wastegate should face up. So now we're going to wrap this with some of this titanium heat wrap, because we're trying to keep the under hood temps down. We're going to put a blanket on this side. There's the titanium wrap on the inlet pipe. Need to remove this pulley, and this nut gets this support bracket that comes up when it attaches to the top right here on this flat bracket. So we need to get that situated. So you need to remove power steering reservoir, slide it out of the way, and then make sure your sway bar is unbolted from the frame at this point. Here's the oil temperature sensor. Put some right stuff on the threads. We're going to thread it in to here now. Just going to let the ghosts know. Look at here. So we're going to tighten that in there, and then that'll dry prior to us actually having to pour oil in. Here's the back exhaust pipe. This is the one that sends it back into duals from 3 inch. So it goes like this. Then we have another one here that goes on that hanger that we installed.